Robert, Mount Vernon, Illinois, Republican caller. Hi, Robert.
Yes, my comment is that if there is so much work out here, why do we have so many people on welfare? And what's going to happen when we let all these people into our country and they do become citizens, that they ain't going to turn around and go back onto welfare?
That's exactly the point that one of my friends is making, who is constantly looking for workers in that area of southeast New Mexico where unemployment is 3%, just in that one small area. But his point was that he has a lot of people working who are here on documentation. They become legal and can go into unemployment. He thinks that we're going to actually see workers evaporate from the system. Don't know if he's right or not, but it's Robert is talking about something that we should be thinking about.
Paul is next in Tampa, Florida, independent caller.
How you doing?
Hi, Paul.
Hi. I kind of have a question. That's this outreach to minorities.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why we don't outreach to the Midwest and the Northeast. There's overmajority of white voters. Why are these white voters not voting Republican? Why don't they reach out to these, explain to them in the Northeast and then in the Midwest that their states are going to end up like California and these other states and Illinois? Why don't they? I'm just curious why these white voters in these sections of the country vote Democrat.
All right, Congressman.
Don't know if I can answer that. Again, it addresses my first comment as we came in, that in my opinion that it's not so much outreach. Outreach means I'm going to come out and I'm going to convince you to vote for me. If I will go out and just simply do my job, if I will go into the communities where I represent and do my job, then people will say, I either like the job he's doing or I don't. We very seldom break into a campaign per se. I just serve very publicly, and that in itself is the most compelling campaign. So Paul's idea of outreach, if we start managing the business in terms of outreach or whatever, then you have to go to his question. My point would be that if we're simply out there trying to make things better for our communities, then we would be presenting our ideas to these voters in the Midwest. I will tell you that those areas of the country that are overtaxing companies, the companies are leaving. California is finding that exodus. So it just, we have to live with fiscal restraint. You cannot continue running deficits, whether you're a state, and I think there was Peter earlier that really wanted to wrestle with this, and it's a good question to wrestle with, but we just can't keep running deficits without regard. Even states, federal government, we all have to pay the bills at some point.
What about on the national stage, though, and the message that comes out of Republicans? Here's jewelry maker Jay on Twitter, who says, as a woman, I feel the Dems defined the GOP stance on women. We did not recover from that.
We, again, do not articulate our positions very well on the life issue. There are many pro-life women. There are many women who feel like that's an intrusion. But I think in the last election that we had candidates who completely stood back and did not engage, and that then allows the other side to explain where you stand. When you're not willing to give explanation to it, the other side will gladly explain for you. And I think that's what your Twitter submitter there is just talking about.
We'll go to Robert in Woodleaf, North Carolina, independent.
Oh, good morning, ma'am, and good morning, sir. I appreciate you taking my call. I have a question. I want to know when Congress and the House of Representatives and all these people are going to calm down, start doing their job, and sit up there bickering like a bunch of kids. I'm proud to be an American. I served in the Army. I'm a Vietnam veteran, but it's getting to the point that I'm really getting disgusted with being an American because they can't do nothing about their job. They all they do is argue, and I'd like for them to settle down and start doing their job. Seems like they always wait till the last minute to do anything.
Robert is expressing probably the most frequent thing I hear in my town hall meetings, and that is, why can't you work together? I said, well, basically there's two answers, and one is, first of all, Americans they elect people who look just like they do. So I said, if we are not talking in Washington, you're electing us, and that then asked the question, how many of you have sat down with a Democrat or Republican, somebody of the opposite party, and talked about very difficult issues? And almost always the answer is, well, we don't do that. And so when America on the street starts talking back and forth about the issues that will solve the country, then we're going to do it here. That doesn't excuse us. And so I'm sitting down, I'm just making a point now to get some of my Democrat friends, let's go off campus. Now choose people really far away from me on the spectrum, not the conservatives, but, and let's go and let's sit off campus and let's have dinner and let's talk. And it's amazing how close we come. Even in my district, about 3 years ago, we began to talk immigration with LULAC, me and them, and then when we got a calmness between us and some, we closed that gap tremendously. There were still differences. Then I actually brought the Tea Party and set them down, and this is 2010 or so, sat them down with LULAC, and we actually found that LULAC was more conservative on some things than the Tea Party, and the Tea Party was saying, no, I would go along with that. And so anyway, that's what we should be doing, and when we do it on the streets, Washington will absolutely follow suit or be changed out.
Debbie in Houston, Texas, Republican.
Good morning.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. You know, part of the problem with immigration from Mexico is because Mexico is a war zone. The people aren't safe. The government is crooked. You know, we used to have trade agreements that we didn't deal with countries that broke civil rights for their people. Part of the problem is Mexico needs to clean their act up. Mexico also needs to be put into the position that they need to help secure the border.
Okay, Debbie, I'm running out of time, so I'll have the congressman respond.
Yeah, Debbie is exactly right. Mexico has tremendous internal problems. I go into El Paso and I visit with people who really are back and forth across the border, talking about with the Border Alliance, and I'm hearing more from Mexico citizens that they absolutely are starting to try to clean up the mess in their country. That would stabilize it. Actually, trade from the U.S. toward Mexico is on an uptick right now, especially for New Mexico trade. So some positive things happening, but still a very unstable region along that border.
Quick question for you about gun control. New York Times this morning with the headline, "For Colorado Governor, a long path to gun limits." In it, they say this: Democrats hope the expanded background checks and new limits on ammunition clips are signs of a durable shift in a Western swing state where the biggest political affiliation is unaffiliated. As the co-chair of the Western Caucus, what do you make of this? A Western state, the governor looks like he'll sign a couple pieces of legislation.
Again, I try to be driven is not by seeing what we've got to do to catch the voters, but by the principle. Everybody wants public safety. The question is, will the gun control do that? And from 94 to 2004, they had the assault weapons ban, they had the multiple round clip ban, and the CDC took a look, could not find anything. Department of Justice, I think, or also did a deep study trying to figure out if it helped, and it did not. When most of America does not have a problem with guns. 67% of the violence is coming from 50 cities. If we want to cure the problems, we need to go in where those gangs and the drugs are, and we begin to clean up the messes. And that's when the violence begins to go down from guns. That's where we need to be working.
Steve Pearce, Republican of New Mexico, thank you for talking to our viewers this morning.
I appreciate it.